Good morning, everyone. Today I will be talking about understanding our bodies, but this is not just about biology. It is about learning to see our bodies with respect, to understand them with kindness, and to value them as part of who we are. Alongside with this, we will also talk about a very painful reality, which is the violence against women. So let's begin with the female reproductive system. Yung katawan ng isang babae is capable siya of something incredibly powerful. It can create life. But before that, it goes through natural processes like yung menstruation and monthly cycles that are often misunderstood or even hidden and silenced. Pinaka-common mistake na ginagawa ng mga tao is using the word vagina to describe the entire system. So as you can see in the picture. But in reality, it is only one part of a much more complex structure. Some may feel insecure because of differences in appearance, shape, or color. But those differences are not flaws. They are normal. They are human. Walang dalawang babae ang magka-same ng katawan. So if you think na maitim yung sayo or hindi kayo same ng shape, it's okay. That's normal. Don't feel insecure about it. And when we understand it, it can slowly heal the shame that many women silently carry. Okay lang. Okay lang yun. Kasi it is very, very normal. Now, let's talk about the male reproductive system in which yung katawan ng ng mga lalaki, it produces sperm cells, which are essential for reproduction. But what many people don't realize is that each sperm carries either a male or female chromosome. And during fertilization, yung sperm na yun ang magdidetermine sa sex ng baby, hindi yung babae mismo. And only one sperm will join the woman's egg. If yung sperm na yun is lalaki and na-meet niya yung egg na yun ng babae, yun ang magiging baby nyo is boy. Kasi kasalanan ba ng babae na ang dumating or ang nagka-reach sa finish line is sperm na lalaki at hindi babae? Hindi yun kasalanan ng babae. And pinaka-importante yun na malaman or maintindihan ng mga tao. Because for a long time, women have been blamed for something they never controlled. Hindi yun kasalanan ng babae, okay? And as we grow, our bodies begin to change in ways we cannot always see or control. Sa mga babae, itong changes na yun, it begin during puberty. In which guided by hormones like estrogen and progesterone. Itong mga hormones na yun, it quietly shape the body, nagde-develop yung breast natin, the menstruation begins, the emotions shift, and growth happens in ways that can feel both confusing and overwhelming. And later in life, kapag yung mga hormones na yun, it decreases, the body enters a menopause era. And sometimes, it helps to remember that nothing about these changes is wrong. They're simply part of being alive. As for the menstrual cycle, it is something natural, yet often surrounded by silence or discomfort. And yung monthly cycle natin is different siya for each woman. Okay? It begins on the first day of a woman's monthly bleeding, and most women bleed every 28 days. Yung each month, yung body natin, it prepares for the possibility of creating life. And when that does not happen, it gently releases what it has prepared. And yan yung tinatawag natin na the three phases of the cycle. First is yung lining ng uterus nagtithiken for the possible of pregnancy, magkakaroon ng ovulation, and then shedding. Kapag hindi nangyari or if no pregnancy occurs, that's when the lining sheds. And yan yung tinatawag natin na menstruation. But even if it is natural, it is not always easy. There are days when cramps make it hard to move, when emotion feel heavier than usual, or when tiredness feels overwhelming. And yet many women still continue silently. So ang tanging may help mo lang is simple care, rest, warmth, nourishment, and understanding that can bring relief. But more than that, what is needed is compassion, because no one should feel like they have to suffer quietly just to be strong. Now we move to a very painful topic, that is the violence against women. Actually, this is not just about physical harm. Sometimes, ito yung violence in the words that break a person down. Ito yung kinokontrol ng mga kalalakihan that slowly takes away freedom. It is the fear that makes someone feel trapped in their own life. And what makes it even more painful is that many suffer in silence, not because gusto nila, but because they feel they have no choice. There are many harmful beliefs about violence. Some say it is caused by alcohol. Others say it only happens in certain families. But the truth is, always natin tandaan, it can happen anywhere, in any home, in any situation. And perhaps yung pinaka-most dangerous belief of all is that yung violence daw is a form of love. Okay lang na bugbugin ka niya kasi mahal ka naman niya. No, love does not hurt. Love does not control. Love does not destroy. Love means showing respect and kindness. So to truly stand against violence, we have to look directly at its source. Why does a man choose to hurt a woman? We often hear excuses na kaya niya sinaktan yung babae kasi lasing siya, kasi nawalan siya ng control or she deserved it. But these are just covers, okay? It offers a quick end to this agreement without having to actually solve a problem. Kapag yung lalaki, it wins or he wins through fear, he gains even more power for the next time. Some men believe being a man means controlling women. They feel they have a right to a perfect wife, to sons, or to make every decision just because of their gender. So, karamihan sa mga lalaki naniniwala sila na lalaki ka kung nakokontrol mo yung babae. No, it is not. And if a man saw his father or others react with violence during stress, he may have never learned or any other way to be a human being. So, physical beating is often just the outer rim of much larger will of abuse. At the center, meron tayong power and control, and many women suffer through these invisible forms of violence long before a hand is ever raised. Kapag tinatawag mo siya na sa pangalan niya and making her think she is crazy or controlling who she talks to and where she goes, dyan papasok yung emotional abuse and isolation. Kapag ina-ask mo siya for every cent or taking the money she earns so she has no way to survive on her own, or sa pilitan kang nakikipagtalik sa kanya, dyan papasok ang financial and sexual abuse. Kapag ginagamit niya yung anak niyo or yung anak and blaming, making her feel guilty to her children or denying the abuse ever happened, claiming it was her fault, dyan papasok yung using children and blaming. And one form of abuse almost always turns into another. It might start with an accidental push or a man sitting in his partner's usual spot so she is forced to move or she is forced to move. And if this behavior works for him, it will almost always gets worse. So we must learn to recognize the warning signs before the violence escalates. If you or someone you love is in a relationship, ask these hard questions. Does he accuse you of lying or act possessive when you see other people? If nagsiselo siya, huwag kang kiligin kasi hindi yun pagmamahal. Okay? Does he try to keep you from seeing friends or family so you have nowhere else to go for support? Hindi yan pagmamahal. Hindi yan pagmamahal, I mean. If he throws objects or break items during an argument, shows he has trouble controlling his actions, hindi yan pagmamahal. Does he blame stress, drugs, or even you for his behavior? And if he thinks his behavior is your fault, he is unlikely to ever change himself. It doesn't matter kung gaano mo kamahal yung tao na yun. Love cannot change someone. Only that person can choose to change themselves. And the longer a woman stays in a violent relationship, the more control the man gains, and the less faith she may have in her own strength. And because of that, violence often follows a cycle. Hindi yan siya nangyayari na andyan lang siya. Nangyayari yun, it is because it follows a cycle. It starts with tension. Dito yung small fears, small arguments, and verbal abuse. And kapag nag-ignite yung fire na yun, it turns to abuse. Okay? Diyan napapasok yung slapping, kicking, use of weapons or objects, minsan sexual abuse and verbal threats. And kapag nangyari yon, magkakaroon ng calm period. Dito papasok yung apologies. Magsusorry siya, magpapromise siya na, sige, hindi na yun mangyayari ulit. Even moments that feel like hope. Right? But without real change, the cycle repeats. And slowly it becomes harder to leave, not because the person doesn't want to, but because fear and hope keep pulling them back. And the effect ng violence go far beyond the body. It breaks confidence. It damages self-worth. It creates emotional wounds that are not always visible. And many people ask, why don't they leave? Bakit nga ba hindi na lang umalis yung babae if nagiging abusive na yung partner niya? Leaving is never simple when fear is present, when finances are limited, or when hope still exists that things might change. That is why victims needs understanding, not judgment. May mga reason kung bakit nagsistay yung babae sa abusive na relationship na yun. Not because gusto nila, but natathreaten sila. Tinethreat nila, papatayin nila yung magulang nila, papatayin niya yung anak niya. Kaya walang choice yung babae kundi magstay na lang. Okay? And when we talk about violence against women, we are also talking about survival. And, we are also talking about survival. And one of the most important step is having a safety plan. So, naglatag ako dyan na mga safety plan na pwede mong gawin and in which living an abusive situation is hindi siya easy. And kasalukuyan or karamihan sa kasalukuyan or minsan ang mga nangyayari is that after leaving, many survivors face fear, financial struggle, emotional pain, and isolation, and some even question their decisions. That is why we must understand that living is not the end of the struggle, it is the beginning of rebuilding life again. So real change happens when action replaces silence. Yan yung practical intervention in change. Victims need safe shelters, legal protections, counseling, and communities that respond, not ignore. But more than responding, society must also prevent abuse by challenging harmful beliefs and breaking the cycle of violence before it starts. Okay? Kinakailangan na yung mga pamilya natin, they will raise their children, specifically boys. Tuturuan nila yung mga boys to respect themselves and girls to lead non-violent lives. Diyan, magsa-start yung change. And ano yung role ng health workers? Healing begins with support. Yung health workers natin, they often become silent witnesses to pains. Sometimes, the most powerful thing someone can hear is, naniniwala ako sa'yo. I believe in you. Even when victims cannot speak, yung body nila sometimes tell the story. A careful eye, a safe space, and a kind, non-judgmental voice can make a victim feel seen for the first time again. They don't just treat injuries. They help begin healing, both physically and emotionally. In the end kasi, yung support is not just about intervention. It is about reminding the survivors na hindi sila nag-iisa and they never were. So to end this discussion, we are reminded that understanding our bodies is never just about science. It is about respect, awareness, and dignity. Our bodies carry life, change, and emotion. They deserve care, not shame. They deserve understanding, not silence. But itong understanding na to also comes with responsibility, because in the same world where bodies grow and heal, there are also people who suffer in silence because of violence. Violence against women, hindi siya personal issue. Opo, it is a human issue. And it ends not only through laws or systems, but through awareness, compassion, and the courage to speak and act. As individuals, we may not be able to change everything at once, but we can choose to listen. We can choose to believe. We can choose to support. And sometimes that is where change truly begins, because no one should have to fear in their own body. No one should have to survive love that hurts, and no one should feel alone in their pain. Kasi naniniwala ako sa kasabihan na when we understand our bodies, we learn to protect them. And when we value life, we refuse to tolerate violence in any form. Wag po tayong mapang-abuso. Wag po natin abusuhin, saktan ang mga kababaihan kasi they are gem. They are precious. Okay? And that would be all. Thank you.